and welcome to another consciously consumed episode of We Only Look Thin. I am Katherine Weigel. I am one of your hosts. I have lost over 120 pounds and kept it off for half a decade. And I don't know.
Whoa!
That sounds like more than 5 years.
It does. That's so much more impressive. Half a decade.
Half a decade.
Yeah.
I am a Tiny Habits certified coach, a Thrive Global certified coach.
Yeah.
And with me today is
Donald Weigel, and I am half a host of this show. No, I'm one half of the host of this show, and I have lost about 100 pounds and kept it off for about half a decade.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, and I'm like over half a century old.
Oh.
Also, that makes me sound ancient. Doesn't
It does. I
Doesn't
know.
it make me sound like my bones are about to turn
I
to
remember
dust?
when I think when I turned 25, it was like quarter century woman. What? And now
Yeah.
at half a century. Wait a minute.
No, half a century sounds like a lot.
Hey,
Yeah.
old man.
Yeah.
And
I probably shouldn't attack any of our listeners who are also half a centenarians.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right term is for it.
Me either. I think they take Centrum. Is that like
Centrum Silver. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're okay. So we're going back for a second. A little while ago, I had Donald reframe something because someone treated him nicely and he was annoyed by it. And I said that maybe he was deferring to someone who was older, and Donald didn't appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. But then the other day, someone let me go first, and Donald made sure to tell me it was probably because I was older.
Because of how old you were. Yeah,
So-
exactly. Yeah, so just to, I have an issue where someone is standing closer to the doors of an elevator, and then it opens, and the person steps back and holds their hand out.
Like, after
for me to go first.
Centenarian.
I'm like, just get off the elevator. We would both be off if you had just left the elevator instead of gracing me with the ability to get off first.
Yeah,
because
just laying down.
It feels like they're trying to say they're better than me.
See, and I asked him to reframe it.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, what is there to reframe? And I was like, well, maybe you're just old. And
Yeah.
he was being deferential.
Yeah.
So apparently
I'm trying very hard to get past this.
Yeah, and if that
reframe and make it
if that person was you, explain yourself. But
Yeah.
you know what? I have another surprise bit of content before we move on to the
Oh,
real
no.
episode. I have more hummingbird chatter to share.
man.
For those
The
of you,
listeners were clamoring for
boy.
it. They were
Well,
like, "Oh my goodness, please more hummingbird updates."
dear friend,
that was all we heard for the last couple weeks.
friend of the show, WOLT chum, WOLT inspiration, Carla, actually sent me a private message saying, please tell me you're not actually feeding corn syrup
Corn
to the
syrup,
hummingbirds.
That's right.
But I had a revelation.
And you're not, right?
No, I'm not.
Let's just go on record and say you're not feeding
not.
them corn syrup. Yeah.
No, and I'm actually not just on record, but like it didn't actually happen.
Yeah.
So it's fine. But I made an actual realization on this very day before we recorded this podcast.
Yeah.
A hummingbird came up.
And I actually saw it this time.
Okay.
Yeah, she wasn't just gaslighting me into thinking there was a
No,
hummingbird.
okay.
I actually saw a hummingbird.
It was a hummingbird, and it rudely was enjoying the nectar from the flowers below the hummingbird feeder.
It was eating the plant that the hummingbird feeder is next to, not anything out of the hummingbird feeder.
And then
it came over and said hello.
It occurred to me as I was looking at it, actually just afterward, I was like, which would you prefer, a juicy orange or orange juice from a carton?
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. That hummingbird is living the California dream, actually having nectar from a real flower instead of garbage
maybe
water.
It came for the nectar that's in the feeder, and it stayed for the nectar from the actual flower.
Yeah, so it's just, I'm a bird enjoying juice from an actual flower instead of your janky stuff that you got at the DIY center. So it just occurred to me, it was a metaphor for life that maybe I should just be happy that there are hummingbirds in the world and stop trying to dictate how they enjoy themselves.
Right.
Which is a problem in my life in general.
Telling people how they should be enjoying themselves is definitely a problem. problem.
But I bought it. You should enjoy it.
Right,
See, I'm not a good shepherd of hummingbirds.
This was like, you buy a gift for a kid, but they play with the box.
Right.
Like, instead of the actual gift.
So this is a big life lesson to me that maybe I will do some journaling about. But speaking of things, I don't know. We're just going to change subjects now.
You had mentioned at the opener of this, you had mentioned in a roundabout way that this was a consciously consumed episode. And when I think of consciously consuming things, I imagine myself as Pac-Man and that I'm just eating like that. The little dots are all the food and that's me eating it. And then the ghosts are like super treats. Like when they turn blue,
delicious
and I'm
super
eating those,
treats.
That's the conscious consumption that I'm aware of. What are you referring to?
Well, what I'm referring to, and I'm actually, as you are saying, Pac-Man, I'm imagining that Pac-Man is eating away the months every day of the year. Whack, 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 whack. He is.
Wow, that's a really good Pac-Man.
I'm very, very good at that. Yeah. No, I should definitely be a
That was
Foley
not
artist.
a sound effects full.
What? That sound is coming from my body?
Yeah, Catherine made that Pac-Man sound.
Wow. Anyway, you might have noticed, if you are in the US of A, that the day that this is coming out happens upon Labor Day in America. Good old Labor Day. It is September. It is also sort of the, as Gretchen Rubin would say, sort of the new year for America.
Yeah, like second New Year, like Ryan Seacrest's like Labor Day Rockin' Eve.
Woo!
Just happened, and we all stayed up and like till midnight and watched the ball drop.
Yeah,
the secondary one. This one's
the lesser known.
This one's in Dallas.
Yeah,
not in New York.
Yeah. So Gretchen Rubin talks about the new school year being also a sort of new year and an opportunity to reevaluate our goals and our habits. We don't have to wait until New Year, the real New Year, not the fake one that we've just created for this episode. We don't need to wait until the New Year to really do an assessment of our habits. Doesn't that sound like fun homework on Labor Day weekend?
It sounds amazing. So, and just remember, New Year's is a social construct.
Yeah, man.
It's created by big New Year greeting card. Yeah. Or probably champagne companies.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Delicious.
So maybe they'd be happy to have a second New Year in September.
That would be good.
Maybe we should partner up with them and see where this takes us.
With champagne. Or what is it? The champagne of beers.
Yeah.
Which one is that?
Yeah, I
Michelob.
think it was Michelob, I think it was Michelob. I'm gonna have to look it up later.
We will look it up later.
The champagne of beers.
But what we're hoping to impart upon you is that this is a good opportunity to assess your the rest of the year for yourself. And for me, I realized, and this is sort of how it came up, I realized that I have been really enjoying audiobooks this year, which is great. But I prefer thrillers and lots of murdering things that happen and things where I gasp, but I have not actually really been listening to a lot of inspirational books or podcasts recently.
Yeah.
Which is, for me, you're listening to this, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
But I realized I hadn't listened to any inspirational podcasts myself because I can only listen to me so much, just like Donald can only listen to me so much. So there's a podcast that I listen to occasionally called School of Self-Image with Tonya, Leigh, and an episode called Conscious Consumption caught my beautiful blue eyes.
Yeah, very beautiful blue eyes. And I have two things to say. First of all, number one, this just in, the champagne of beers is Miller High Life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wow.
I just looked it up on the internet.
Okay.
And then secondly, because this episode caught your beautiful blue eyes, it therefore became my homework to listen to it.
Yeah.
And I listened to it, and it really was really eye-opening, and I think a great topic for us to discuss through the our lens of weight loss and fitness. I'm really glad that I listened to it, and I sometimes forget Catherine, had told the story of basically hitting rock bottom before the two of us kind of started on this journey.
Fun stuff.
And yeah, super fun stuff. But you had basically said to yourself, all of the voices, all of the things that are in my life right now, they're not working.
Yeah.
And so you needed some new voices in your head.
Exactly. I definitely knew that what I was doing wasn't working. And it really occurred to me, sort of like an apple falling on Newton's head. I think that happened. Did that actually happen, or is that a
I don't know
tale?
if it really happened or not, but that's what we were
His
always
wooden
told
teeth
in grade
fell
school.
on. No, that was George Washington.
And that made him think about gravity. Yeah,
exactly. So I decided I needed new inspiration, and then it occurred to me maybe there are things in the world that would inspire me other than myself feeling sad for myself.
Yeah. So in other words, Catherine consciously decided to consume new ideas, new information, and get some new voices in her head to try and steer her in a different direction, because the same things that she had been consuming over and over again, the same ideas, the same books, the same podcasts, the same influences hadn't worked before. The same diet plans hadn't worked before, and so she decided to consciously consume different things.
Yeah. So and just when you think, Donald and Catherine, you're not doctors, could you reference? Is there a doctor that you could reference that would actually support what you're talking about right now?
Yeah, the podcast, Tonya Leigh mentions a Dr. David McClelland, and I actually what she references is just a study that was done at Harvard University, and I did a little bit of research, found out that a researcher, Dr. David McClelland, who was one of the pioneers, did groundbreaking research in human happiness and human success. And one of the studies that he did called something a reference group, which is basically the people in your life that you spend the most time with. And his study determined that your reference group determines as much as 95% of your success or failure in life.
That is bananas.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's basically, the people that you are hanging out with the most, like the quality of your relationships are determining your happiness, your success, your failure. And there's also a motivational speaker who I admit I'd never heard of till recently, named Jim Rohn, who's quoted as saying, "You can't fly with the eagles if you continue to scratch with the turkeys."
Which is really funny and maybe not. I don't know. I just imagined you hanging out with turkeys.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Yo, turkey?
I don't know why calling someone a turkey is so enjoyable.
It's you. You're the turkey. It's you.
Yeah, it's really turkey is sort of one of the few things you can still call somebody and feel guilt-free about it.
Okay, but I also found a quote about Jim Rohn, which I have heard before and we have used before in the podcast, where he talks about how we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So are you hanging out with eagles like they do in Philadelphia?
Yeah, that's how they pronounce it in Western Pennsylvania.
Turkeys.
Eagles. Yeah.
The eagles. But we have talked about that before. We are an aggregate. We are a Voltron-like, I don't know, a cylinder? I don't know. Are we cylinders? Are we people cylinders?
No, we're not cylinders.
I should have paid more attention to that.
We are basically robots formed by all of the other robots, by smaller robots.
Yeah, right. That's are Voltron, a composite. There we go. Of all of the things that we consume, and whether that's the 5 people we consume, this has suddenly become an episode about cannibalism.
Yeah.
We are not just the average of the 5 people that we spend time with, but we're also the media that we consume, the podcasts we listen to, the passive content we watch on TikTok, who we're inspired by, the food we eat, the drinks, the donations we make, the charities that we spend our time with, the people, all of these different things come together to create who we are and who we want to be.
Yeah, Tonya Leigh in her podcast specifically says, and I liked it so much I wrote it down. She says, our environment creates our self-image, and our self-image creates our entire lives.
Yeah.
And, so basically another way of saying what Catherine just said, like all of these things that we're consuming, all of the people that we're hanging out, all of this media that we're consuming basically forms our opinions of ourselves.
Right. And actually in Tiny Habits, BJ Fogg, who is also a doctor, that's right, the second doctor from this episode.
Yeah. How many doctors will they reference on this show?
I think he's maybe the second one, unless we talk about Dr. Pepper.
Now, 3. We've referenced 3 doctors.
3 doctors in this episode. But he actually worked with Weight Watchers at one point, coming up with habit design. And the top people at Weight Watchers actually said, I don't have the specific quote, but said that it is very difficult for people to keep weight off if they don't change their environments. If their environment is full of unhelpful content, whether it's food or people or, just whatever you're consuming, which hopefully, again, is not people. But
cannibalism.
It is very difficult to keep weight off if we don't actually change our food environments. And so on this episode, right now, as you're listening to it, we are going to challenge you to really consider what you're consuming in your life. And going back to Tonya Leigh, how can you consciously consume rather than passively just let everything into your life happen around you?
And she suggests thinking of your life like an empty house, like you've got a pristine, clean, perfectly, manicured house. What are you opening the doors to? What are you opening the windows to? And what are you really allowing in? Are you allowing in, basically muddy boots that are going to track dirt everywhere? Or are you going to allow in the ideas and the people that are going to help you, not just keep the house clean, but actually even make it better?
Right, and level up. And for me, I was thinking about junk mail. We went and saw the Groundlings comedy show a million years ago, or improv show, and there was one skit where a guy was sitting at a beautiful writing desk wearing an ascot and smoking a pipe, and he was writing correspondence with a feathered pen. And it was like, "Dear Mazda of, Sherman Oaks, I appreciate your kind correspondence about a special offer for Labor Day weekend. Your blowout sounds amazing, but I declined to whatever." If we responded to every single spam call that we received, junk mail invitation to sign up for a new credit card, every as seen on TV ad, we would just be filled with garbage. And if we don't filter out content, we're just suddenly living in a garbage house with trash raccoons instead of actually cultivating and designing an environment that builds us up. Not to say that it isn't nice to respond to watch a fun cat video, but how are you spending your time and energy? And is it part of the future that you're trying to build for yourself?
Yeah, and Tonya Leigh says that one of the fastest ways that you can change your life is to consciously consume what you want your life to be. So looking around at the books, TV, social media, et cetera, and the people around you, you do have you heard the Marie Kondo thing?
Yeah.
Of you hold something and then you ask it if it sparks you joy.
Yeah.
So the sort of a take on this, she says, ask yourself, does this serve me or belong in my future? Well,
and that, when I listened to that, I actually played it back 2 or 3 times because that really hit me. The idea of that KonMari, does this spark joy? Does this spatula spark joy? And suddenly you don't have any spatulas because it didn't spark joy. Tonya Leigh, I almost called her Tonya, which I wouldn't do that because she's Ms. Leigh. I don't know. No, Tonya Leigh. There we go. Tonya Leigh.
Yeah.
This is why I'm socially awkward, because I don't know how to say people's names. Is that idea of...
That's not the only reason.
Of does this serve me is a very good question. And do you see it in your future? Is this something that you want to keep around?
Yeah. So if you are looking at, if you are ordering takeout and sitting on the couch all the time, and you are imagining your future, and you're saying to yourself, I imagine myself in the future being a fit, active person, maybe then the takeout and the sitting on the couch constantly should not be in your present.
Right.
If you can't imagine it in your future, maybe you start getting rid of it now.
Right. So one thing that she actually said in the podcast was, if right now you're drinking a bottle of wine a night, is the future that you're creating for yourself, are you still doing that in the future when you're this like successful, trim, whatever person? Because if you're not, maybe today is the day that you stop doing that, because we become the kind of people we want to be by doing the things that person does. And that idea of being conscious about what we're bringing into our lives, what we have in our homes, the way we eat, the way we move. Do we see that as a vision for our future? Because if not, this is the time to start working on filtering that out. And it's not about laser beam eyeball, like every single thing in your house. Does it spark joy? Does it, do I see this in my future? It's not about getting rid of every single thing in your house in this one spur moment.
Yeah, and I don't think it's about becoming the kind of person who does nothing but try and improve themselves.
No.
I enjoy watching a cat video as much as the next person. And, but it's the ideas you're bringing in, the social media you're consuming. It's really asking yourself, is this thing I'm consuming lifting me up, or is it bringing me down?
Yeah. And that's the big thing. There are things that are neutral that, of course, Donald and I right now are sitting on our couch right now. And it's important to be able to sit. So we're not saying don't have a couch in the house.
Yeah, and it's important to have fun, and it's important to have relaxation in your life, and it's important to just veg out and watch Netflix sometimes.
And passively consume cat videos.
Yeah, or read something that's for fun. But, using myself as an example, this isn't directly related to weight loss and fitness, but from the time I was about college age, I was basically a news junkie.
Yeah.
I really thought that in order to, that I was serving society best by being as informed as I could be. And I really, I consumed as much, news information as I could get my hands on for many, many, many years. I would say, a couple of decades probably, or at least, 15 years from that time. And I eventually found that I was just angry all the time.
Yeah.
And upset. And I would hear these things on the news all the time that would just make me angry and upset. And I would ask myself eventually, is there anything I can do about these things? And the answer was almost always no. And instead, I was just consuming them and filling my head with all of these angry things that were making me angry, and really sort of, torpedoing my own mental health by doing it. So I had to back way off of the news information that I was trying to consume. And I've reached a much happier balance to that now. But it's that idea, I thought I was doing something that I enjoyed and that was to my benefit, but really it was bringing me down.
Right. So we've talked before about our circle of control and influence and things that are outside of our control. And we can decide in this current season of our lives, not forever, not obviously we don't ever look at the news anymore. That's not the thing. It's what do I need to prioritize in this season? So as we're looking looking at the coming months, deciding what you want to cultivate in this season between, it's all a societal construct, big calendar telling you pages. But like this season, what are you up for? When was the last time you actually challenged yourself to sort of level up? Again, I found that I've been listening to a lot of thrillers and a lot of, people being murdered by things, which is super fun and it gets me out of my head. But
you heard it here first. Cannibalism and murder. This is what my wife is about.
It's super fun. But where are you ready to really look at what you're being influenced by? Is it serving you? Is it upsetting you, or is it inspiring you? So really looking at the months ahead and looking at what is in your environment and where you're ready to do a little bit of filtering out of stuff that isn't serving you. So in researching Jim Rohn, the guy who came up with the average of the 5 people we spend time with, he was an inspirational, motivational speaker. I found an article by Connie Mathers called The 5 Lessons on the Average of the 5 People You Spend Time With. And she had a number of ideas, 5. 5 is actually the number that she had of takeaways or things to consider
when. A spoiler alert in the title.
When you're thinking about your surroundings. So her first suggestion was keep your critics around. We don't want people who are just 100% supporting us in like, you're amazing, everything you're doing is fantastic. No, they're the jerk, not you. We don't want necessarily all people pleasers around us. We want people who are going to challenge our thoughts. A lot of that is being able to take constructive criticism or listen to podcasts, books, and listen to people who might challenge you and push you out of your boundaries a little bit. It's important to be challenged and not just say like, well, all I do is see you eating salads. You're like, why aren't you losing weight? Like, oh yeah, that's because I'm secret
used
eating.
To be me. Like I would have people in my life telling me that all the time. And I'm really not great at taking constructive criticism. It's something that I need to work on getting better. But if you're like me, we've all had that friend who is an aspiring writer who like asks you to read something and like everyone in their life just keeps telling them, oh, it's great, you should keep going, when really what the person needs is some constructive criticism that, maybe they need to go in a different direction
or get additional training.
Like, and people aren't brave enough to tell them the right thing. So having people in your life who will give you new ideas and point you in different directions is really helpful.
Right. So I said when I quoted myself in taking notes is we don't just need cheerleaders. We need people who challenge us, who in your social media environment, in your community, in person or online, who is someone that you aspire to be or are inspired by? And can you have more people who challenge you to level up and don't just say like, you're perfect exactly the way you are. Sure, we're all exactly perfect the way we are. I want to say that. But also we can love ourselves exactly as we are and still be works in progress. Connie Mathers says, the more successful a person becomes, the more likely they are to seek constructive criticism. So that's really big. She says novices look for validation 100%, and experts seek for areas of improvement. So,
yeah, and that's a hard pill to swallow, to know that, the best way to grow is actually to seek out criticism from others.
It's really hard to look for that. So another one she says is consider the company you keep online and in person. Again, she also highlights that online communities are the fastest growing and best way to find people who are going to force you to level up. Maybe your community, maybe you're a stay at home, whatever your work environment, you're not being challenged to level up. But she said that online communities are a great way to level up, which is, hey, WOLT Place, we only look thin place, our Facebook-based accountability group. We'll talk more about that at the end. But she says that there's a difference between seeking support as a therapy of just a place to grouse or unwind or complain. That's not what it's about. she says, look for action focus, which is being challenged and looking for advice and actual ways. If you're just marinating and complaining and, oh yeah, everything sucks, that's not the same as actually being in a community where people are challenging you.
And another way that I look at this one personally, from my personal experience, is like, we have friends who, like, they're really good friends. I really enjoy hanging out with them, but their idea of a good time, of their idea of the best time, is usually involves going to a bar and drinking.
Yeah.
Or something involving drinking, which once in a while is a great time, but they like to do it a lot. And I have had to, intentionally distance myself from that and choose to very occasionally hang out with these particular people, because I know it's going to involve some sort of drinking-based activity if we go and hang out with them.
Exactly. So one of the other things she says is you can't expect to surround yourself with negative people and expect to have a positive life. So again, not that going out drinking is bad, not that sitting on the couch is bad, not that ordering pizza is bad. None of that is bad, but it's how frequently are you engaging in behaviors that aren't suiting your calorie goals, your, nighttime, bedtime routines,
right.
You're leveling up. So part of that is, and a suggestion might be, is to enjoy that time with people on a more limited basis. So it's yes, I'll go out for drinks twice a month instead of every single weekend.
Yeah.
Find a way to reduce the frequency and the duration of those activities, because one of the things she says is you can't let your social environment solely depend on how it has been in the past. You've got friends from college or high school or mom groups or whatever, Sunday football drinking buddies. It is great to have that in your life, but if it's all of your life, that leveling up isn't going to happen.
And if you would like change in your life, you can't expect change to happen if you don't change anything.
Yeah.
If you keep consuming the same ideas, if you keep exposing yourself to the same people, you're going to end up with the same results over and over again.
Exactly. And her final point was, are you someone who is inspiring others? Can you be one of those 5 influencers that levels someone else up? Maybe you have an experience that you've gone through as a parent or in a struggle or in, school or work or whatever. How can you be a person who inspires instead of just, complaining about things? Maybe you've been through something. I mean, heck, we created this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
To show other people what is possible. What have you been through as a parent, as a friend that has forced you to level up? How can you be a resource to someone else? I have joined a lot of Facebook groups to not only be inspired by others, but also to show others what is possible. And it's been really fun for me to, I want to find other people who inspire me, who show me how it's done, who go oh my gosh, I didn't think I could finish college at age 28 because I was too old. Oh wait, other people are doing it too. I didn't think I could be an active person, but finding other influencers online who have a similar body shape, who are just a little bit ahead of me to inspire me. It's not about being Jack LaLanne, to quote the kid talks that they do now. It's not about
I plan on pulling a truck with my teeth on my 70th birthday.
I now know that we have plans.
Yeah,
so that is not too far away.
Yeah.
No, I'm just being mean. But it's not about going from me to Olympian. It's about me going, hey, look, someone else is making this work. And maybe they've lost a little bit more weight than me, or they're a few years older than me. Being inspired is much better than seeing content or consuming content that just makes you feel bad for yourself. Oh gosh, well, it's obviously too late now. This 20-year-old was able to do a thing, and now I'm almost 50, it's too late. That's not the inspiration I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who are just ahead of me, who can inspire me instead of make me feel bad.
And you basically already said it, but, one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast was to show if you and I can do it, really anybody can. Because, I can't imagine that there are a lot of people out there that were farther lost than us when it comes to health and fitness, and we managed to consume the right input and turn it around.
Yeah, and I'm super proud of us. So it's about...
Yeah.
Sorry. No, but we were able to do it with free resources for the most part around us. We didn't necessarily need to join anything or get professional assistance. If you do need professional assistance, please seek it. It is so important to know what resources are right for you.
And also join WOLT Place.
Yeah, join WOLT Place. Yeah, no, going it alone worked until we needed to level up and find more support. But before we sort of finish this up, I know we've gone in a lot of different directions. I wanted to give you a couple of practical ideas. If you're just going Catherine and Donald have given me homework where I have to spend the next 4 months eliminating all joy. That's what I got out of this. But no, dear listener.
Yeah, that's essentially what we said.
Yeah. But this isn't about analyzing every single thing around you, grabbing every single baby in the room and saying, baby, do you spark joy? I'm not getting useful networking tips from you, baby. So
who's grabbing babies and asking them if they spark joy?
But okay, I'm just saying, I'm giving that as a big example to get everyone's ire up. This isn't about revamping every single second of the next 4 months, but this is about finding tiny ways, tiny habits, and little ways of working them into your life. I see what you did
there, Tiny Habit Certified Coach.
Yeah. So use in-between times when you're waiting in a school pickup line or waiting at the gas station or waiting for your food to cook, those in-between times where you can't really get a big thing done, maybe this is a time to unsubscribe from emails that stress you out, to unfollow Instagram accounts that might be, stressful or unhelpful.
Yeah.
Unfollow some influencers that might not work for you, or maybe search a hashtag for some inspo. Do people still hashtag things? I think they do. You can also Google if you're I don't know what to do. This is literally what I did when I was looking for inspirational podcasts.
Yeah.
I Googled inspirational health podcast is what I Googled. And I auditioned a few podcasts until I found one that worked for me. But Google, type in inspirational TED Talks, podcasts, books, influencers. It's as easy as that. Inspirational moms, special need parent, whatever you're looking for inspiration in, Google it.
Yeah. And there's even a lot more available now than there was 5 years ago when we started this podcast, or 7 years ago when we really started, down the path of losing the weight.
Exactly. If you are not inspired by the people around you, search meetups in my area for people in my age group, for single moms, for single dads, whatever it is. Look for it. Hiking groups, volunteers, clubs to join, Facebook, where can you find the people that you want to be like? What can you join? What can you watch that will help you level up? And we're not saying doing it all, but it's well, right now I don't have any time for anything. Okay, well, fine. Then just find a TED Talk for someone inspiring and just add that to your life. Just listening to this one podcast episode of the Tonya Leigh podcast inspired me. So see, just one little, that was an 18-minute podcast. We've turned it into 900 minutes. So it is possible.
Well, and hopefully you listening to this episode will inspire you to move forward and really consciously consume what you are consuming.
Yeah. And joining a gym, joining a HIIT class, taking a yoga class, changing the people that you're spending time with. If the people in your family or in your friend group aren't into self-improvement, aren't into exercise, it's okay to say, hey, you know what? I'm I would love to hang out this weekend, but I'm actually going to take a yoga class. Would you like to join me in that? Do you want to go to the farmer's market this weekend instead of going out drinking? Trying to find small ways to change your environment is going to take a little bit of effort. Another one is, again, with family. If you have people that are energy vampires at work or at home.
Oh, yeah.
We did an episode called Energy Vampire Diaries.
The Energy Vampire Diaries, exactly.
We're clever. The past us were clever. But find ways to disconnect yourself emotionally from people who are draining you. It doesn't have to be like, well, Catherine Donald said I shouldn't hang out with these people anymore. We can't necessarily do that in our lives, but find ways to limit the power that they are maybe taking from you. And then in terms of the content that you're consuming, again, we're not telling you to never look at funny videos online again or not, watch dance videos or whatever, but maybe try to insert a little bit of inspiration into your day in a way that you haven't in a while. So for me, one of the tiny habits that I have is, oh my gosh, I'm listening to this great, audiobook that someone's about to be murdered or someone is the murderer. I don't know who's murdering what. But
it takes two.
It takes two to
murder. A murderer and a victim, yeah.
But instead of saying like, oh gosh, now I've got to listen to an inspirational thing, like that sounds annoying. What I do is I do the one-way rule, or I have a policy of, you know what, one way while I'm driving to the grocery store, I'll listen to an inspirational podcast. And on the way home, I'll listen to MC Hammer, maybe if I just want to not be able to touch this. Or I'll listen to the audiobook that
Oh my God, if you just want to not be able to touch this.
Sorry, I watched a funny video, a Gen X video about...
No, that was pretty good.
Did you know that Gen Z kids are like doing TikTok videos to Can't Touch This by MC Hammer?
No.
And they're doing it like literal, like, you can't touch this. Like, and they're moving their hand.
My God.
It's not okay.
Oh, I'm not this guy, but what's wrong with the younger generation?
Yeah, no.
That's not okay.
There was I'll show it to you afterward. Amazing
All right.
video of the woman actually showing people how to do the MC Hammer dance because it is sacred and you can't not just touch this. Anyway, it's fine. It's good. But like, do a one way. On the way there, I'm going to, for 20 minutes, I'll listen to something inspirational. On the way back, I'll listen to something fun. While I'm scrolling the internet at night, if you've got 30 minutes before bed, spend the first 2 or 3 minutes reading an inspirational book, listening to an inspirational podcast, and then go over to Candy Crush or, Mario Kart or whatever it is you do.
Yeah, the Mario Candy.
Yeah, the Mario Candy. But just decide that, and this goes for you too, Donald, and for me too. You're like, I don't have any time to read. You know what? Take 2 minutes to read, and then play the games on the phone.
Yeah.
Just carve out a little bit of time for a little bit of inspiration. Because for me, I become the kind of person I want to be by doing the things that person does. And I realized again that I was listening to nothing but audiobooks and fun podcasts and not anything to enrich my my weight loss and fitness goals. So we have the opportunity to step back and really decide, is this who we want to be? We say it is important for us to focus on our physical and mental health. We say it's important to level up our food plan, pump up the volume, that kind of thing. Are we actually exhibiting behaviors of a person who cares about their health? And just consciously deciding, I am going to spend a little bit of time on the fun stuff, like the bubblegum, popcorn, candy type activities, but also I'm going to prioritize a little bit of engagement in activities that challenge me to level up, because we're going to blink and it's going to be 2024 and we're going to wonder, like, where did the time go? We have time right now before the new year to level up, to decide what we're going to design in our lives instead of passively consume. And it is a challenge for me, especially now, Donald, it is going to be football season in America soon.
Yes, and I'm going to consciously consume all of it.
All of it. And he's decided that this season is his fantasy football podcast season. He will not be listening to any audiobooks.
Yeah, anyway, yes, you just said it. During football football season, I only listen to NFL related content on my podcast.
It is. But for me, I realize, and I will not ask the question of Donald so what has this episode taught you about yourself? I will just ask it about myself. I honestly realized that I had gotten passive about listening to inspirational books and podcasts. So I am going to make an effort to download, and I actually just did, a new inspirational book that I can listen to at least some of the time when I'm driving our daughter to and from school. So it's not about just eliminating the fun books. I'm going to start doing that because I need to be challenged and I need to remember what is important to me, because we have a podcast that is supposed to inspire people. And the more I listen to and am inspired, the more I can inspire our dear listeners.
Yes, indeed. And thank you so much, dear listeners, for listening to this. If you have just listened to this episode, which I think you have, then you're already consciously consuming things that will help enrich your life. We are grateful to each and every one of you, and thank you so much. If you would like more of our content, it is all available on all of the major podcast platforms and also anytime on our website at weonlylookthin.com.
Yep, and if you are at weonlylookthin.com, you can click on that link for Join Our Support Group to find out more about WOLT Place. We Only Look Thin Place is our Facebook-based accountability group for women. We are not a weight loss plan, but we are a safe place for accountability, check-ins, Zoom meetings, and thinking differently, being challenged about the way you think about your weight loss efforts. We have 2 subscription options, a monthly option with a 3-day complimentary trial and a 3-month subscription with a 7-day complimentary trial to see if WOLT Place is right for you. And it is a challenge to know sometimes whether we just want to be supported and acknowledged or actually be challenged and to have our ideas challenged. It is something that I still work on, because even after so many years of maintenance, I promise you, I am still tracking. I am still looking at ways to improve my mindset and stay accountable myself. So I am an active part-time. I'm not just the leader. I'm a user too.
Yeah, and WOLT Place is really a great place. You know, we had mentioned online groups earlier in the show. It really is a place where you can go and challenge yourself and really find those people who are going to constructively criticize you to push you to the next level.
Yeah, and if you also just are like, I had a bad day and want a cat gif, then we have those too.
Also that, yeah.
We also have those too. Yeah, so check it out.
And also, you can check us out on social media. Speaking of social media that you want to see in your future, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at We Only Look Thin. Or you can send us an email if you have a question, if you have compliments, if there's an episode you'd like to see us do, that if there's a topic we haven't talked about in a while or a topic we haven't addressed at all, reach out to us via email. You can do that at weonlylookthin@gmail.com.
Yep, and if you have a couple of extra minutes and can head over to Apple Podcasts, please, please, please leave us a rating and a review. Not only does it let us know that what we're doing matters, that the content that we're putting out matters, that we're barreling down on our 300th episode. How many years have we been doing this? 5 years? 6 years? 5.5 years?
Yeah, it'll be almost 6 years.
6 years in January?
Yeah.
It lets us know that what we're doing each week really does matter. So it helps us let us know that what we're doing matters. We would truly appreciate it.
Yes, we would. And another thing we would appreciate is if you could just tell somebody about the show. Word of mouth is really one of the best ways, one of the most successful ways in which the show grows. People in your life trust your opinion. When you say something is good, they are likely to check it out. And also, if you're on an online group, if you're in a Reddit group, a Discord server, a Facebook group, something like that, and it comes up and you give us a shout out, that really helps get the word out about the show and really helps people to find our content, and we would be grateful.
Yeah, we sure would. So if this episode has left you wondering if Donald is up in the air soaring with eagles or down on the ground lurking with turkeys...
Oh, I'm lurking with turkeys.
Just remember that Donald and I are
an inspiration. Asian. Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Asian.
The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.